Hi, I am your occult teacher, Anita Serene, and today's video title and video topic is a very interesting one because it is about how to become an internet icon by finding your soul's aesthetic. No longer will you buy really tacky clothes from Shein or Fashion Nova. Well, I mean, you can still get those clothes. Let's be real. They can be very, very, very cute. But no longer will you follow the trends or just copy what the current it girl is doing. You are meant to be iconic. You are meant to find your own style. You are meant to find yourself so that you can become the star you were always meant to be. So we're going to go over how to find your soul's aesthetic so you can become the next Julia Fox, the next Megan Fox, the next Charlie XCX, or the next Shipple Roan. Let's start with some basic fashion rules. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ew, rules. I don't follow rules. Rules are stupid. I 100% agree with you. But these are fashion rules that I wish that I knew when I was younger, and it's about tattoo placement. So before you go and mark your body and have to get really painful laser tattoo, which I would know is super painful because I'm getting my chest piece removed. I got my chest piece back when Bring Me the Horizon and emo was like cool for the first time, and everyone was getting chest pieces, and I got a chest piece and I regret it and I had to laser it off, and it's probably the worst pain I have ever experienced in my life, to be honest. So this is a rule that you need to know before you go get a tattoo. In order to appear more feminine, you want to get a tattoo from your elbow down. So to appear more feminine, you want to get a tattoo from your elbow down to your feet. So that includes hand tattoos, wrist tattoos, thigh tattoos, calf tattoos, and feet tattoos. Those are good when accentuating the lower half of your body. And you have to remember that wherever there are tattoos on your body, it's going to make that area appear larger. So if you guys notice right here, I have a band tattoo on my lower wrist, and it gives the optical illusion that my hips are larger than they are. So does my hand tattoo because it elongates my waist. So if you want to appear more feminine, only get tattoos from your elbow down to your feet because it's going to give the illusion that your thighs are bigger, your hips are bigger, and your butt is bigger. Now, if you want to appear more masculine or more intimidating, then the spots that you want to get tattoos done are from your elbows up. So it's going to be the complete opposite of my ladies, because once again, wherever you get a tattoo, that tattoo is going to enlarge that part or that section of the body. So you know how when you go on Facetune and you want to make your boobs appear bigger, you kind of just enlarge it. That's what tattoo placement does. If you want to make your boobs appear bigger, you want to get like a Pamela Anderson type of band around your arm right here, because the width of the band is going to enlarge what's next to it, which is the boob. We all have something called a birth chart, which is a birth chart is an energy map of our souls. And when we are born in a certain city at a certain time, on a certain date, it has a whole map of the stars laid out because, baby, we are stars. And as above, so below here on earth. I'm a star girl, you're a star girl, or a star boy. We are all stars. And the heavens are a map, an energetic, ethereal map of what is happening on the material earthly plane. Now, I personally believe that we're a little bit in a simulation. I've had this belief for a while, actually, And I believe that the map of the stars and astrology is actually a map of the code of the simulation game that we are currently living. And so your birth chart is very important when figuring out what your soul aesthetic is meant to be. Now, before someone says that aesthetic is shallow, no. Aesthetic is not shallow. It is not shallow because your aesthetic is the way your soul chooses to express itself to other people. You are a work of art. The way you dress should be a work of art. The way you move should be a work of art. The way you talk should be a work of art. Everything about you should be a work of art that expresses your soul's energy, especially if you're someone who wants to be the next internet it girl or a star. You have to create that iconic look, and that is what I'm going to help you do today. So in order to figure out how you're supposed to dress, you want to look at your rising sign in your birth chart. If you do not know what your rising sign is, then it's about damn time that you go figure that out, and ChatGPT is your friend. Use ChatGPT, ask her or him, them, how to find the rising sign of my birth chart. You also want to look at the sign your Venus placement is in. So you should be listening to 2 signs in this video. The first one being your rising sign, and the second sign being your Venus sign. So just as an example, I am a Gemini rising. I'm a sidereal astrologer, so I follow sidereal calculations. And my Venus is in Scorpio, so I would listen to Gemini and Scorpio. Now, guys, I have to tell you that creating and finding yourself is a journey. Don't expect to figure it out overnight. I am not one of those spiritual people that are going to try to sell you a course of transform your life overnight or become who you're really meant to be overnight, because that just ain't practical. A lot of us, it takes years of practice. So when is a better time to start than right now? And, I had something in my throat just then. And there will be trial and error. There will be outfits that tank. There will be pieces of clothing that you get that suck. You might go through an awkward phase, and that is okay. I encourage you to continue to experiment and put together your persona here on earth, which is your art form. Now, also, don't take this literal, guys, because you want to listen to both signs and see how you can get creative in combining those two together, even if they are the complete opposite of one another. Art is all about experimentation, failure, and eventually hitting success. So let's see what your brilliant minds come up with as I give you a short guide. But remember, this is just the guide. You are the magician. You are doing the work. You are going to create something absolutely iconic, and I know. And each year, you'll just continue getting hotter and hotter and hotter. All right, let's go. If you are an Aries rising or an Aries Venus, and you are a woman, you definitely want to try gender bending. You definitely want to try dressing a little more masculine than you normally would. I actually have noticed that dating coaches and female coaches have been telling women to dress way more feminine or ultra feminine, and that actually is kind of boring. And what I've noticed from, interacting with people in real life, especially in LA, as I meet musicians and artists, these men tend to really be attracted to women who kind of gender bend, have shorter hair or a masculine style, because it's kind of mysterious to them. It's kind of like how we as women are sort of attracted to the guy with long hair, because long hair is more traditionally a feminine trait. So, the fact that we see a dude with long hair, we think it's hot. We're like, hell yeah, bring it on. And so, if you have an Aries rising or Venus, This is very much about dressing kind of like the cool girl who likes to drink beer, who likes to watch football. A really great example that I found in the media was Avril Lavigne back when her career first started. You know, she's an ultra feminine, beautiful girl with beautiful hair, beautiful facial features, but the way that she chose to express herself is super tomboyish. You know, she's wearing the baggy skater clothes. She has the backwards hat on. The early 2000s were very big on this, actually. So, you know, Y2K looks I would look into. Another great example of this, I believe this seduction style, by the way, is called the dandy. This seduction style, I believe, is called the dandy. And the dandy is pretty much when somebody takes on a lot of the traits of the opposite sex. Another really great example of this would be Brody Dahl from The Distillers. She, once again, super feminine, curvy body, beautiful feminine face, but she's wearing very masculine clothes. Actually, Aries is also the sign that rules punk rock and metal. Why? That is because Aries is the sign of war and anger. So I find that a lot of people who have Aries placements in sidereal tend to be into emo, punk rock, metal. So I would put those elements into your clothing because that would look really good on you. An example of this would be, you know, I have like some examples I took out of my closet when I was experimenting with clothing. You know, baseball cap that is traditionally masculine. You know, normally you see a dude wearing this. You know, experiment with some of these. And also, I am not an Aries rising or Venus. And also these studded belts. The great thing about this is this accentuates your waist, because whenever there's like a design or something shiny, it enlarges the spot where you put it. So these are really great as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to gender bend and kind of have that tomboy edge to you. If you're a guy and you're an Aries rising, just really get jacked at the gym, okay? Get jacked. Getting jacked is going to look good on you. And listen, skinny little, if you're a man, skinny little emo boy, you know, if you're really cute, you might be able to pull it off. But if you're a guy and you're an Aries rising or Aries Venus, you definitely want to get to the gym and try to look as much as a Viking as possible. Look like a warrior. That's how you were born to look. Bring back the 80s hair metal physique, okay? That's gonna really look great on you. Ooh, now I got excited. I was a little bored, but then I just started thinking about Brent Michaels in the 80s, and now my night's not so bad. Anyway, now let's move into if your rising sign or Venus sign is in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is a sign that is the sign of beauty because its planetary ruler is in fact Venus. And Venus, the planet Venus, which I'm sure you've heard about, it rules two things, which is love and beauty. Love is the sign of Libra, and beauty is the sign of Taurus. And it's funny because the sign of Taurus is represented as the bull, and bulls are typically found on farms. They're typically found in small towns. So remember how I was talking about how life is a video game simulation? And pretty much the stars are a map of what is the stars are code of what's going on in the simulation. Well, you will notice that the most beautiful girls are found where Taurus rules. And Taurus rules places like Utah or farms, Why? Because Taurus is the earth, Taurus is the land, Taurus is rural areas. And if you're not sure what rural means, it means areas that are not heavily populated. It's the opposite of the city. It is farmland. It is wide open pastures, wide open prairies, kind of like where my dad lives in Utah. He has this giant farm where there's not a single soul for miles and miles, just animals. And yeah, and that's why there's also this funny saying that, oh, the most beautiful girls are in Utah, because Utah is one of those places that is ruled by Taurus. And wherever there are farms, you will find beautiful women. Actually, I also have a theory that going to places like Nashville, places like Utah, those places I feel like have the best places to get beauty treatments done as well. And listen, long story short, the sign of Taurus rules the Wild West and cowboys. And so if you have a Taurus rising or a Taurus Venus, I would highly suggest picking up the Wild West aesthetic. It's very trendy lately. I know 2024's Coachella was cowboy themed or Wild West themed. One of my favorite bars in Hollywood is Desert 5 Spot. You'll probably see me there sometime. And that's very Western themed if you want some inspiration. Another great movie for inspiration is Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt. If you haven't seen that movie, you need to see that movie. It is such a good movie. But you will look good like the cowgirl, like the cowboy, and having some Western looks. Now, the sign of Taurus also rules really traditional conservative states, because the sign of Taurus represents traditional family values. And even in the tarot, Taurus's tarot card is the Hierophant, and the Hierophant represents tradition. So the sign of Taurus is not a woke sign. It's very not California. It's very anti-California, actually, if that gives you any indication. Now, I do feel like, and remember, I'm a sidereal astrologer, just to remind you guys, I do feel like our idea of traditional family values is definitely changing, because the sign of Uranus, which is the futuristic, which is the weird, which represents, the alternative people, the innovators, that is currently going through Taurus. So our idea of traditional family conservative values is changing, where we are accepting more of gay marriage and, maybe not even marriage at all. Marriage and children is no longer the traditional family norm. We're noticing a rise in a lot of my generation, the millennials, the elder emos, really not getting married or having kids as much as Gen X or the boomers or the generations after them. So every few decades, traditional family values do go through a change when Uranus goes through Taurus. And so I think we're going through that right now, where, there are conservatives who support gay marriage, and we are changing our viewpoint on what is traditional family values that are a lot more modern, because Uranus is currently transitioning Taurus. But in the past, our traditional family values were kind of more conservative. And so that's why the sign of Taurus rules the conservative states and maybe even conservative culture a little bit. So, start watching some country music videos and get inspired through country music videos. And if your mind automatically went, ew, I would never do that, ew, I would never listen to country, then your mind is not open enough to get inspired, because art is about just taking in ideas and getting inspired every which way and not being prejudiced to how we receive inspiration. So if you want to be an artist, if you want to create your image as a work of art, you have to start being more open-minded and maybe see what's up with the country music. It could be pretty good. Honestly, I get down with some country for some time. I love that Garth Brooks song, I Got Friends in All the Wrong Places. You guys should listen to that song. It's really good. It's a good karaoke song. Don't hate on country, don't knock it. It's really, it's kind of good sometimes. So next, if you are a Gemini rising or Gemini Venus, this one me and you have in common. So the sign of Gemini represents, siblings. It represents your neighbors. And it also represents kind of like little kid energy. So, and also the sign of Gemini kind of represents like everyday workers and writers, such as secretaries, or just in general, like somebody who is at the desk a lot, or someone who writes or is very prolific with words. So when we think of what Gemini represents altogether, the writer, the secretary, the student, because Gemini is also the sign of the student. Sagittarius is the sign of the teacher, but Gemini is the sign of the student. So academia would be a very good look for you. There's also this new micro trend that I saw popping up on TikTok, and I think it's called the office siren. That look would look bomb on you. So what I want you to do is go into Pinterest. We can do it together actually, because I love Pinterest, guys. Listen, Pinterest is such an amazing tool. It's such an amazing source because your brain is a very complex computer. And when you look at images, whatever you focus your energy on is what is going to start being created by your brain in your life. So Pinterest is, instead of going on TikTok and catching up with your favorite influencers, try to get on Pinterest and start looking at how you want your house to look in the future, how the outfits, that the vibe you want to give. Because if you look at those images for long enough over a period of time, it starts embedding in your brain, and your brain starts actually making those things a reality. So Pinterest is great for manifestation, because remember, guys, whatever you focus your energy on is what is going to manifest for you. So use Pinterest. It is your friend. This is not sponsored, but I love Pinterest. Okay. Love Pinterest so much, guys. And I know you will too. And I know it will help you with your styles and putting together some amazing things. Now, plaid skirts are your friend, plaid pants, thick rimmed glasses, really teacher it up. And this is going to look super good on you. Look like the academic, look like the bookworm, look like the writer. There's this aesthetic that I think it's called dark academia, would really suit you, especially if you have placements in Scorpio. So the academia look, browns, button-ups, plaid skirts. Actually, I remember Olivia Rodrigo for a little bit was kind of doing the academia look. It's almost like kind of French girl too, but plaids on the bottom half of your body are definitely going to make the bottom half of you appear larger. So if you're trying to look more feminine, I highly suggest getting plaid skirts and plaid pants, and stay away from plaid shirts, because plaid shirts are going to make your shoulders and your chest look bigger. And if you're trying to look feminine, you put patterns on places you want to enlarge. And typically feminines have wider hips, bigger butts, bigger thighs. Remember, Gemini is also the sign of your neighbor. So having the slightly girlish girl next door, or the slightly boyish boy next door kind of look, where it's really unsuspecting, that is really going to bring out your best. So you want to look kind of like that nice girl next door. Lizzie Grant, which is Lana Del Rey's project before she got famous on Lana Del Rey, is very Gemini coded, very girl next door. There's this one song Lizzie Grant, aka Lana Del Rey, has that's like, I'm the girl next door, let me come in. I know go dance, but I do it for kicks. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, look up Lizzie Grant. Very girl next door, Gemini coded. And that's going to look really good on some really, really good movies to watch. If you really want to get into that Gemini-y natural beauty you have, whether it's a Gemini rising or Gemini Venus, because yes, you also want to emulate great actresses of the past for that star quality. That's something that all stars have done. Even Marilyn Monroe, I think, did it. Based on Jean Harlow, but I could be wrong. I don't have like the information up right now on my computer, but even Marilyn Monroe imitated her look and persona based on stars of the past. So when you're creating or crafting your internet persona, or you're creating and you're crafting a persona for your music to sell your music, emulate great movie stars and actresses of the past, and try to watch older movies, the classics. So, for instance, if you really want to get a vibe of like a good Gemini vibe, watch There's Something About Mary with what's that? Zoolander. What's his name? All I know him as a Zoolander. But Something About Mary is such a classic Gemini personality. And also watch movies such as like Bad Teacher. That might give you a little bit of Cameron Diaz movies in general are just really good for showcasing that girl next door personality, but also Drew Barrymore movies as well, like 50 First Dates, very lighthearted energy. Gemini has very lighthearted energy. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's borderlining on, kind of naive and playful in a sense. Let's move on to the zodiac sign of Cancer, if that is your rising or if that is your Venus. So actually in tropical astrology, I am a Cancer rising. So me and you are both watching for each other. So if you're a Cancer, I would really stay away from dark feminine looks, which is going to be really funny if you also have Scorpio in your chart. But when you think of the Cancer sign, it's very motherly and it's very traditionally feminine, and it is also very angelic. So angelic looks would look the best on you. Makeup looks that kind of make your eyes look bigger and innocent. So the thing that you want to try to achieve is this air of innocence as well as purity, the angelic kind of vibe with glitter, iridescent, ethereal sparkles and eyeshadow, wearing whites, wearing pearls, but also Cancer and Capricorn are both signs that relate to the past. So if you have Cancer, Capricorn, rising, or Venus, things from a different era or time period will look super good on you. So find like a historical period from the past that you really resonate with, and how you find that out, guys, if you're not a natural history buff. But if you find yourself watching Bridgerton, maybe incorporate some Victorian, that era was the Elizabethan, that's the 1500s. I am not a history major. This is embarrassing. I'm going to have to edit this out. That was very embarrassing. But adopt some of those timepieces into your wardrobe. Or if you're someone who's really drawn to the 70s and you like that hippie psychedelic vibe, incorporate some of those pieces into your aesthetic, because you are somebody who will look good in fashions of the past. Now, the key is not to look like a cartoon character where you're cosplaying someone from a different time period. And if you're a guy, by the way, we're going to get to you in a second, so just relax for a second. So the key here is not to cosplay someone from a different time period, but honestly to incorporate certain vibes from the past into present styles. And that is how you create something iconic, something that makes you nostalgic, or makes the viewer or makes your audience nostalgic for the past, but at the same time it's rooted in the present. It kind of makes it seem like the fantasy can be real. A really great example of this is Lana Del Rey. She did a fantastic job in the music video national anthem, where it was a historical story about the Kennedys and their marriage in the White House. Yet, instead of having it be verbatim what happened in history, she made the president an African-American rapper, which was a very futuristic, present time sort of vibe. So that is how you successfully mix the past and the present to create something iconic. And that's how you prevent yourself from looking cheesy or corny, because you're not just cosplaying, you're incorporating past fashions into the present, which creates something timeless. So timeless pieces would really work the best on you. Now, if you're a guy, I know Marilyn Manson is a Cancer rising in sidereal astrology. I don't know what he is in tropical, but I know he's a Cancer in sidereal. And Marilyn Manson is a man with this rising sign. So the reason why Marilyn Manson was so popular is because he really embraced his feminine side and really did a lot of cross-dressing back in the 90s and 2000s when he was really at the peak of his career. So if you're a guy with a Cancer rising or Venus, do not be afraid to grow your hair out long. Women love that stuff. Don't be afraid to really embrace that feminine side. There are a lot of male icons that have embraced their feminine side and were sex icons to women. For example, Johnny Depp, he is a great example of a more feminine looking dude that women go crazy over. Also, not to mention all of the band members in 80s hair metal, they incorporated elements of femininity with their makeup and their hair. So don't be afraid to embrace your feminine side, because women find that really hot, and generally men who do that are made as sex icons for women. So the only people that might give you crap is other dudes, other straight dudes, but who cares? You're going to have to learn how to suck up the hate if you want to be iconic in this world. Also, if you're a Leo rising or a Leo Venus, you definitely want to come off as very playful, lighthearted, and funny, because Leo is a sign of casual, cue Chappell Roan's song Casual, where it's like, we're knee deep in the passenger seat and you're eating me out as a casual now. Well, guess what? The sign of Leo is all about casual romance and dating and fun times and lightheartedness. So I would take inspiration from characters like Penny Lane, especially from the movie Almost Famous, especially when she has that line that goes, "What beer? What kind of beer?" So where she doesn't really take things too seriously. She's very light and happy-go-lucky. That is the vibe you want to bring to the table of sunshine, rainbows, and happiness. And it's going to be, once again, very funny if one of your other signs is Scorpio, because that's like totally opposite of one another. But if you find a way to combine both contrasts, that's actually super seductive, because the contrast will make you a mystery that people want to solve, and it will also make you an enigma that people can't quite figure out. So don't knock it until you try it. Now, let's go on to if you are a Virgo rising or a Virgo Venus. Now, if you are a Virgo rising or Venus, this is actually in sidereal astrology. Chappell Roan is a Virgo rising, and Virgo actually is representative of the Virgin. So this is really interesting, because Chappell Roan, just as a case study, just so we all kind of have an example of what we're dealing with here, Chappell Roan has this look with this bright red hair and this pale makeup. It looks a lot like the Virgin Mary, which was Henry VIII's daughter with Anne Boleyn. And we know that this is a famous story. So many shows, so many movies have been based on this historical character of the Virgin Queen or the Virgin Mary. And why what Chappell Roan did was so powerful here is because she is incorporating mythology of the past that we are all collectively very familiar with and putting it into present context without cosplaying the character verbatim where it looks cheesy. She's just taking elements of that character so her listeners or her fans can subtly experience that universal archetype in a way that ignites their imaginations. And so one of the reasons why I think that she blew up or became so iconic so quick is because whether she did it purposefully or not purposefully, she made herself an icon by resembling a great icon of the past. And not copying verbatim, but taking those elements and incorporating those characters of that person subtly into her work. And the genius part about this is that Chappell Roan also is a very famous bisexual. I think she's bisexual, or she could be just straight gay. I'm not sure. But she is very publicly into women and into girls. And the crazy correlation between her and Queen Elizabeth is that Queen Elizabeth, there were rumors that Queen Elizabeth was single or died a virgin because she wasn't even into men in the first place. There was rumors that she was into women. So her reminding the audiences of a great archetype of mythology we are all familiar with and incorporating that into her image is genius, because that's what makes something iconic. That's what makes something very popular, because it reminds the audiences of something they've already heard of or already experienced, but in a new way. And that's what people like. And so with Chappell Roan, she is a beautiful example of the Virgin really embodied in her outfits. She's taking inspiration from the Virgin Queen with the bright red hair and the pale white makeup. And another thing about, the Virgin or Virgo, which Virgo does represent the Virgin, is that the virgins are innocent. Virgins are pure because they are normally younger. So one way to really play this aesthetic to your advantage is really play around with light feminine, innocent looks that make you appear younger. So probably stay away from red lipsticks, because I heard that makes you look older. But honestly, play around with whatever you want. The goal here is just to look as pure and innocent as possible, because that's what Virgo, the Virgin, represents. Now, it's interesting because Virgo also represents the help or the servants. So use your imagination with that one. Now, if you're a guy, really play up this virginal persona to your advantage, because actually women find that really hot. I mean, Kurt Cobain was the biggest rock star in the world, and he talked about publicly all the time how he was a virgin who never got any play, and he was probably in the 90s one of the most lusted and sought after rock stars, and he openly admitted to being a dweeb. So if you're a guy, I would look at bands like Weezer and kind of emulate their swag, men like Kurt Cobain. And even I've heard this new influencer, Johnny Gilbert, just always talk about how he never gets girls, and we know that's not true because he has thousands of followers. He's a very popular influencer who's blown up. He's really big in the emo community. He gets girls. So the fact that he's just saying, oh yeah, I never get girls, is funny. And it makes you look very confident. So if you're a guy, don't be afraid to play up that dweeby, awkward side of you, because there's a lot of women and a lot of people that do find that really attractive. So if you are a Libra rising or a Libra Venus, then this is the sign of the dream girl or the dream boy. And that is because Libra rules the section of life that deals with love and relationships. So when putting together your aesthetic, I want you to, just as an exercise to help you create your iconic look, as a creative exercise, I want you to think about your favorite romance movie. I'm going to give you guys a second to really think about it. What's your favorite romance movie? What was your favorite romance movie growing up? So I have to share a movie that I love, but I also want to hear yours down below because I love the romance genre. You can tell it's Mercury retrograde because I be stuttering. So my favorite movie growing up, romance-wise, was Benny and June with Johnny Depp. And I loved that movie so much. Growing up, now I know the reason why I loved it is because it was the 90s love on the spectrum, and it was about two really autistic weirdos who fell in love with their quirks. And that always spoke to me because I think, like most people on the internet, I might be a little neurodivergent, but it's apparently very trendy now. But I loved that movie because I loved how two weirdos found home in one another. And so the moral of the story, or it's not really moral, but back on your homework assignment, what I want you to do is think about your favorite romance movie and look at the lead of that movie. If you're a girl or identify as a girl, look at the female lead character and kind of emulate her personality traits, emulate her style, emulate her character, because aesthetic is not just about the way that you look. It's also about the way that you act and you carry yourself and the way you talk. This is all a part of the art form. And what I want you to do is when you're watching your favorite romance movie, really look at that same-sex character and kind of look at why are they so charming? What about their mannerisms do I like? What about their costumes or the way they present themselves or their character traits do I like? And kind of adopt them as your own. And this might actually help you find yourself, because I truly... Maybe this is part of the neurodivergency or the neurospicy in me, but I truly feel like we're all masking and it's not just a neurodivergent thing. I think all of us sort of mask in some sort of capacity. And in order to have that star power and be super charming, you kind of have to create this character for yourself. And creating a character is a part of the art of finding yourself. So it's not about being fake. It's about realizing that you are clay and you're molding the clay in this life, and this is your art form. So that is your homework assignment. Watch a rom-com, watch some romance movies, and see what makes them the perfect partner. Now, also, another exercise I have for you when finding your aesthetic is I want you to look at the people you are most attracted to in a romantic relationship. So I'm not going to go and spill my type because that information isn't important. But let's just say you are really into guys that are artists, or you're really into guys that are musicians, or you're really into guys that have that artistic flair. Then start adopting some of the reasons why you like them into your character, because you might discover hidden hobbies that way. Because remember, aesthetic isn't just about the shoes you wear, how you do your hair, how you do your makeup. It's also about the interest and how you live your everyday life. This is how you create something authentic. And you might be in love with somebody and really admire a hobby that they do. Adopt that hobby as your own. Like for me, I once dated this guy that was a skateboarder, and I thought that was so hot. I thought it was so hot that he skateboarded. So, instead of putting that person on the pedestal. I was like, hey, I got a skateboard and I learned how to skateboard, and it was really cool. And I like that about myself now. And it was a hobby or an interest I didn't know that I actually had inside of me, and I wouldn't have known unless I was involved with them. So with the sign of Libra, a lot of who you are, who you're meant to be, or the next steps in your life will be mirrored to you in the partners that you are attracted to. So the next exercise I have is think about who you have a crush on, who's your dream partner, who your ideal partner is. Kind of journal, like, why is this person my ideal partner? Why is this person my dream partner? And then instead of obsessing over that person, start exploring their hobbies. Start, borrowing some aspects of their aesthetic or the way they decorate their home, and experiment with those aspects, because you could create something that's really unique to you. Because remember, as an artist of life, which means we recognize our bodies are our art form, our style is our art form, our surroundings all our art form. We're all artists creating an experience for other people. Us being that experience, we realize that as entertainers, we realize that as performers. So we take inspiration from everything around us. Okay? So let's move on to Scorpio. Oh, this is my favorite sign. This sign is not my favorite sign per se, but they are my favorite aesthetically. And may I introduce you to, if you are a Scorpio rising or Venus, the rock star girlfriend look. Gabriette is a model that's really big. I think she's engaged to Matt Healy of the 1975, and she just has this rock star girlfriend vibe. She looks so much like Angelina Jolie, and Angelina Jolie also has that rock star 90s grunge vibe. This is going to look so good on you, baby. Dark hair, dark makeup, dark feminine, the siren look. Another great example of this would be Maddie from Euphoria. I hope I'm not mistaking them, but her dark feminine eyes, smoky eyes, and also Dove Cameron with her single "I Eat Boys Like You for Breakfast." Yeah, you definitely want that hardcore rock and roll edge to you, that bad girl, bad boy edge to you. And if you're a guy, take inspiration from vampires. Definitely, watch those vampire movies with Scorpio rising or Venus. So Him is a really great example, that band Him. And also, if you're a guy, definitely don't be afraid to rock some guy liner and maybe some pale skin. This is definitely the sign of the brooding emo rock star girlfriend, messy girl makeup, even a little bit of mobster wife aesthetic with the big fur coats, which was really big in the winter of 2023. This glamour will really look very, very, very good on you. So really take inspiration from the darker, the gothic, the macabre, and don't be afraid to really watch a lot of vampire movies for inspiration and to look like you're borderline dying or have just lost a lot of blood. And also a great example, if you're a guy, take note from Damien in the Vampire Diaries. You want to embrace your shadow, your mystery, your mystique, and your darkness. This is really insert picture of Tate Landon from American Horror Story. This vibe will really work for you if you play out the angsty and intense energy. With Sagittarius, if you're a Sagittarius rising or a Sagittarius Venus, then definitely rock the hot teacher look, kind of like the Gemini. I would definitely get some teacher glasses, a cardigan. Oh yeah. And really play with the academia look, or I like to call it like the real life Harry Potter look a little bit, where it kind of looks like you go to some sort of prep school in Britain, in the country somewhere. I don't know if that even made sense, but I'm putting like images up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. because Sagittarius is the sign of college and the sign of the teacher. So definitely rock that hot professor look. I actually know a guy who had Venus Sagittarius and he wore these teacher glasses, and oh my gosh, did it work. So I don't know, really start going to the library and reading books, because the smarter you are, the more educated you are, the more well-read you are, the hotter you are as for your Venus sign, because your Venus sign also is a great way to tell you how you can go through a glow up. And that's going to be a topic for a whole nother day, but Sagittarius, one of the biggest ways you're going to bring out your natural beauty and go through a glow up is by enriching your mind. Because when you listen to books, when you read books, it actually makes you a better communicator, a better speaker, and a better writer, simply because that's what you're feeding your brain, not even because you have to try. And that air of intelligence and sophistication you will carry will definitely make you guys go through a massive glow up. Ain't that right, Berber? Now, Sagittarius is also the sign of the spiritual teacher or the spiritual guru. So if you are not feeling the teacher aesthetic or the teacher vibe, also experiment with different religious sectors. You could also make a very, very, very attractive cult leader. Do some research on cult leaders, do some research on spiritual leaders, maybe something in their aesthetic, in their vibe, in the way they express themselves will actually inspire your style a little bit. Now, if you are someone who's a Capricorn rising or a Capricorn moon, old money looks are going to look really good on you, because pretty much Capricorn is the sign of the wealthy. It's the sign of the upper class. It's the sign of old money. And so you kind of want to incorporate some of that into your vibe or into your aesthetic, because it's really going to bring out your bone structure. And I would also, if I were you, because Capricorn's planetary ruler is Saturn, and Saturn rules old people and old things. So much like the Cancer and the Cancer rising, I would definitely adopt kind of a vintage style or a vintage look into your aesthetic. I'm not saying cosplay like it's a different time period, because that's going to make you look super cheesy and super corny. But don't cosplay like it's a different time, because like I said, it will look very corny. But just adopt like a grandpa or a grandma style of dressing. A really good example would be Noah from The Notebook if you're a guy. If you're a girl, look at Allie from The Notebook as some style examples. But also, I would look into just like the old money grandpa golfer look. I'm going to be searching some weird things into my Pinterest just for examples for you guys. But that would look so, so good on you. And don't be afraid of the vintage, timeless, classic look. Now, if you are an Aquarius rising or Venus, definitely the weirder, the better. In fact, you could even rock the alien Palladian aesthetic. I know I did this makeup routine like 7 years ago on YouTube, but the weirder, the better. Do not be afraid to be absolutely weird. Actually, if you wanted to try to look a little bit like an alien, that might actually work out for you there. So taking Aquarius is the sign that rules the future as well. So it's very scientific. It's very future oriented. It's very before its time. So, one example I'd have of this is Doja Cat's newest aesthetic with her bald head and her unique makeup looks and her rebellious nature. It just really screams Aquarius. And another example of this would be, there's like this new influencer, I think her name's Pinup Pixie, but she has like these futuristic tattoos that make her look robotic. So she looks like a pinup robot. That is actually very Aquarius-y, because Aquarius is the sign that rules futuristic technology, space technology. Aquarius also rules space. And so anything that's kind of borderlining on out of this world, alien-like, futuristic, mechanical, robotic, sci-fi vibes would really work for you. Also, Aquarius is the sign of Sappho's and same-sex love. So definitely, like, in this sign, don't be afraid to gender bend as well, because that is really going to look good on you. Aquarius is the sign of unconventional beauty, not really conventional beauty, because Aquarius is very rebellious and goes against the mainstream, goes against the norm, and is kind of like a subculture on its own. So, insert picture of Ross Geller from Friends. In fact, a little bit of the Science Club nerd put into your aesthetic would look really good on you. And remember, guys, I am a huge fan of watching movies for inspiration and shows for inspiration, because I believe what we focus on, what we pay attention to, the images that we see will process in our brain and cause us to make decisions that manifest a very similar reality. And that's why I'm a huge fan of watching movies that inspire you, watching TV shows that inspire you, and also looking at Pinterest instead of just scrolling on TikTok, which is great. I do that all the time too. But as an artist, what you feed your eyes is what's going to come out of you subconsciously without you trying. So I'm always telling you guys to watch movies for inspiration, and a show I would recommend for inspiration on your aesthetic would definitely be The Big Bang Theory. Watch this. This whole group of nerdy scientific men is very Aquarius. It gives very Aquarius vibes. And also time periods like the 90s and the 70s and the mid 2020s are going to work for you, because that's when Saturn has been in Aquarius, and that's its home sign, because Saturn's ruler is Uranus, but its real sign, its core sign is Saturn. It's Saturn ruled. So science nerd, and even not just watch Star Wars as well as Star Trek as well, because that could provide some amazing inspiration. And when you look at those costumes, you can kind of adopt those into the look that you create for yourself. Now, if you are a Pisces rising or Venus, this one is a really fun one, because this is my sign of cosplayers. Why? Because Pisces is the sign of fantasy. It's the sign of the ethereal. It is the sign that rules the imagination and daydreaming. And Pisces' tropical planetary ruler is Neptune. And Neptune is the higher octave, which means the spiritual, elevated version of Venus. So it's like an ethereal type of beauty. So if I were a Pisces rising or Venus, I would, first of all, thank God that He made me so beautiful naturally. And I would really try to get into cosplay and look at cosplay inspired makeup looks, because the elements of that could really inspire something great in your look. And once again, this video is a tool that is meant to inspire you, not tell you verbatim what to do or think, because I want to inspire you to put elements you wouldn't have normally thought together to create a work of art, which is your image, which is your persona. And some avenue that you might want to go towards for inspiration is looking at cosplayers online and maybe even practicing what they do with the contacts and the enlarging of the eyes and costume makeup. Now, the sign of Pisces also rules mythical and fantastical creatures such as mermaids or sirens, fairies. and also angels or spirits. So it's almost, if you have Pisces rising or Venus, you're born to look out of this world ethereal. That is the word I would have for you. So in order to get inspiration, I definitely look into fairy core or look at old pictures of sirens or just really mystical beauty that doesn't even seem real, that could only exist in a fantasy novel. That is the element of Pisces, because Pisces rules the imagination and all things that are wonderful that exist in some other world. So watching a lot of fantasy movies, reading fantasy novels will also provide a lot of inspiration for you, because you have a natural gift of illusion and creating something that really amazes people, that looks like magic. Now, that is what I have for you guys. I had so much fun doing this video. It's one of my special interests is really just helping you guys realize that no one is born amazing. No one was born with this character. You have the power to create it. You are the artist of your own life. Your persona is your art. Your aesthetic is your art. The character you create for yourself on this earth is your art. Don't let anyone call you a poser. Don't let anyone call you fake. Express yourself freely, because that is your God-given right. And I know you guys are going to create something so unique based on this inspiration. And one day I will be looking at the next icons of the cinema and music, and I'm so excited for you guys, because if you found this video, the universe is challenging you to finally find your soul aesthetic, and all it takes is a little self-reflection and self-discovery. Bye, guys.